What the hell is Morgan talking about seeking counseling with her and Tony prior to them being a couple and prior to them dating?
Eh,
Sounds like the cart coming before the horse to me. And when the cart comes before the horse, both of them are headed downhill.
I think because Morgan and Tony like drama, selection, she probably gonna dump him and go about her business.
To quote one of the little rascals, was it Stymie? You said a mouthful. Welcome to Cliff Alerts. Today we're going to be talking about OWN Network's reality-based TV series Ready to Love, season number 7, episode number 12.
But before we get into it, please like, share, and subscribe. And please send us your comments. It starts off with Tommy meeting with the four men. I believe it was Tony, Mark Anthony, and
Three.
Dre.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna this week meet with the family so the family could add their 2 cents on the lady who they have the strongest connection with.
Yeah, so first up was Tony and Anthony. Tony introduces his strongest connection. Y'all know who she is, Morgan, to his sister Regina.
Yes. And he said, Regina, and he tight. She has never steered him wrong. She gives good advice. So he brings Regina to meet Morgan.
Right.
And initially, Regina likes Morgan. She thought she put her best foot forward. She was covered up.
Yeah, yeah. And then Regina kind of revealed to Morgan in the course of their conversation that, yeah, he is a man's man. Okay.
Hmm.
But then, the conversation took a little bit of a turn, didn't it?
Yeah, she said that Tony is the kind of man's man she likes. She's feeling him.
Mm.
However, Tony has some hard places that she would like to soften. Sometimes he comes across as being harsh, and she would like them to go to counseling so they can get on a better part of communicating prior to actually officially dating.
And he was like, wait up, hold up a
Now,
minute.
now we do know that Tony and Morgan have been having some exchanges behind the scene.
Or have very good reason to suspect that things have been different than what they've been projecting on cam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now she's trying to mama guy us and tell us that she thinks they need counseling before they start dating.
Right. And I'm sure that caught Tony off guard with it. But at the end of their what seemed like a very brief meeting, Regina kind of gave Tony
The side eye.
right, like, I don't know if this chick, I don't feel like this chick is for you. Is the kind of vibe that I got from her, and I'm not sure that Tony wanted to hear that.
No, Tony and Morgan are locked in.
Right.
That drama is sexy to them.
Mhm.
So they want to keep that going as long as they possibly can.
You're right. Meanwhile, Anthony introduces his cousin Chris to his strongest connection, Cynthia.
Yeah, and prior to meeting Cynthia, um, Tony talked with Chris and let him know that Cynthia has an ex who's the father of her kids. He is gonna be in their life if he chooses her.
In short, he's antagonistic, aggressive towards
Right.
anybody that he perceives as competition for his ex because he's trying to get back in good with her.
And the two men may be knocking heads based on his behavior and how he speaks to another man.
Mhm.
Most men are not going to go with that. And Cynthia implied that she has James under control.
Since
Now,
when? She
she
didn't have him
sure,
under control in the previous episode
thank you very
where they just
much.
sat down and met, and he just came out right out the gate making assumptions about people he didn't know or know anything about,
What
mess up
she got
anything else
going
that
on.
she may have as a potential or possibility for
Exactly.
a relationship
And he ain't going away anytime soon.
because he got
You got to deal with him.
right, exactly. And Anthony, for his part, says, "Man, I don't know about dealing with that."
Well, Anthony don't want to bring that sort of toxic thing in his
And
life. He said
he's got a
he's a
daughter,
man
right?
of peace,
And
and
he's got a
he's
daughter,
got a
right?
daughter
Right.
who
That he don't
he
want.
takes care of. And
Right.
he why would he want to surrounded with that kind of negative energy?
Next up was Dre, Camilla, and Jasmine.
Yes.
Mhm.
and he said his sister's a little touched, but
like that.
he got to roll with what he got. Cynthia came through
And
first.
Cynthia was nervous because she wasn't expecting to meet
Women,
women
yeah,
who can see through women's ish
she was on
and
point.
call them on it right there in front of her brother.
She was on point. Women can see through other women. So
Right,
she had to bring her A game, put on her big panties,
right,
and when she's asked the question, look at the person dead in their face and respond accordingly.
right. And that's exactly what she did when it came to the question of more kids.
Exactly.
And Cynthia said, "Hey, look, I'm down for two more kids and a dog, and I'm done."
Right.
Okay.
Basically.
Then I believe Dre's other
Was
connection, Jeffrey
Jeffrey.
rolled
And
up.
she rolled through, and Cynthia was clowning her a little bit. She said she showed up with a dress up to here, everything covered up, and she didn't put it on at the table. You notice that? She met the family, and she said she was surprised to see Cynthia sitting there. It was like, because she thought she was the biggest prize out there.
Yeah, and when posed the same question about kids, because I think Dre had already informed her that his two
That both
strongest
of them
connections
had
had
kids.
kids already. I think in Cynthia's case two, and in Jeffrey's case three.
Right.
I think Jeffrey was unprepared for the question, maybe a little even offended by it.
Right. Yeah, when Camilla asked her about the kids, Camilla's framed it as okay, that's already a red flag for her.
Mhm.
And then she asked Jeffrey what she brings to the table. She's surprised at the question.
Right, and
And meanwhile, Cynthia says, well, I got two masters, I got two businesses, so I got a lot to bring, I'm gonna bring to
And
the
then Jeffrey
table.
Jeffrey asked her in the confessional, you know, why is he dating me? Did you ask yourself that? I guess
Yeah,
speaking to
she
Camille.
wanted Camilla to ask herself why she's
Right.
dating thing. He's
Mhm.
overcome by your
By
beauty
the pretty.
and you being fragile. So
Right.
that works for both of you.
Jasmine says afterwards that she actually likes Cynthia. Camilla kind of reveals that she ain't like either one.
Yeah, because they had kids.
Tony had decided to have another meeting
Meet
with
with Morgan.
Morgan after the meeting with his sister Regina.
She just started off easy with a simple response,
Not
and
knowing where he's going with where she going with it.
then she said, well, we gotta talk about your entanglement that Tony had with Natasha, who was the first person eliminated. Tony claimed that he got her number. They went out a couple of
After she was
times
eliminated.
after she was eliminated. And
And
he implied that they slept together. He said that because he liked Morgan so much, he told her.
she ended up chastising him for making for making this kind of choice to engage in this kind of meeting as though he were picking the lowest lying fruit on the tree.
Right. And
And
and do you notice how she discards or disregards women that she thinks is in competition with her?
with her,
Just like
she talks down to
she
them.
talks down about them like
Mhm.
Marcia.
Right.
Meanwhile, he's thinking about Marcia
Hmm.
and now Natasha.
Tony tried to tried to discuss, exactly what it was, regarding his encounter. Morgan cut him off.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want you to talk to me about that."
She brought that up on camera
Right.
to
To
humiliate and
embarrass
embarrass
him.
him
Right.
and to humiliate Natasha as well.
And despite all of this, Morgan has the nerve to say at the end of it, she doesn't consider Tony as anything other than a yellow light, not a green light, not a red light, but a yellow light, which is caution. Clear
Well,
the intersection.
well, of course. Why not? Why don't you
Continue to go
just
down.
go? Keep on going. Grab his hand, grab his stuff, grab your near, and anything you have that you could possibly use, and you guys keep going. Go at it, man. We will. The revolution will be televised.
I'm sure it wouldn't.
There's a reunion coming.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure, there's a reunion coming.
That whole thing with Natasha is foul. Natasha may have slept with him, at least that's what
He said,
he alleges
right,
happened,
right.
but we don't know if that's true or not. It reminded me of that toxic statement she made to Blake about cancer, and she does not mind humiliating another human being because it serves a purpose.
It actually is something that she seemingly delights in.
Yes, she gets joy from that.
Right. And that's
She
somebody like
gets joy from that.
that's somebody I
That's
can't
somebody you
imagine you
can't
want to
check
deal
for.
with. Yeah, you
No,
can't trust. Yeah.
no, you
Because they
can't.
always have an agenda.
Exactly.
So I can imagine why Tony, despite all of these, signs and signals, still continues on down this road.
That's who they want. They want each other. So go at it.
You know?
Good. This
Like
is a perfect example
like
for any man looking on about a beautiful woman who could show up and she's as toxic as they come. And this is an example for women who checking for men out there, who the men behavior is toxic and
yes.
they're still checking for you. It's a no-win situation.
And it's gonna take
Save yourself.
right. It's gonna take, I guess, at some point, that kind of drama or something drastic to happen before that point actually sinks in.
And this kind of relationship is gonna take rather than give. There are a lot of men out there that like drama, so go at it.
And there are a lot
Good
of
for
women
you.
who do this very
Exactly.
same thing.
Exactly.
So
And see, could clearly see that this person is not for them, but they wedge themselves in there. And then they cry and moan and claim that men are yeah, 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 yeah,
mhm.
when they saw the issues in the
And
beginning
chose to
and
ignore
chose to ignore them, and then they got what they got. And then they generalize that all men do this, and the same for the men.
Mark Anthony actually got a chance to meet with one of his strongest connections, Jeffrey, to talk because they hadn't apparently seen each other and gotten a chance to chat up with one another in a while.
Yeah, and if any of you believe that song and dance that Mark Anthony and Jeffrey did, okay, you go at it
You got some
because
real estate to sell,
it
both of
wa-
them.
the
So
fugazi of it all. Neither of them thought that the other one was suitable for them, so they entered into a game of let's pretend.
yes, yes,
Mark Anthony wants needs a younger single woman.
with maybe one or no kids.
Right. And again, a young man, Jeffrey getting with a young man and pretending that he is going to have all his wits together to deal with
Three
her and three babies.
kids. I don't see that.
And there's some toxic stuff
I'm not saying it can't happen, but
surrounding the
I don't see that.
fathers that she was unwilling to bring them forward to meet any of these
That's
men.
one of the reasons why I don't see it, because there's some underlying
Some
issues
problems.
that are waiting for him over the horizon that he's yet to get to. And Mark Anthony
He,
also met with
he,
his other
he,
connection, Mercedes.
yes,
Okay.
who came
And her
through.
yeah, and her opportunity to meet his cousin Chris was via Zoom, right?
Right.
Zoom conference, right?
And they had a good back and forth, but Mercedes found out that Mark Anthony is thinking of moving back to New York,
Yeah, from
and
South Beach, yeah.
and
But
a long distance relationship did not sit well with Mercedes.
I don't see her engaging in that, and I don't see that being something that he would be interested in either.
Right,
I'm just saying.
right.
That's just me.
So we see Anthony now on the beach with Cynthia.
Mm-hmm.
He had a cabana waiting and he put flowers and a picnic and
Smooth move,
champagne and what have you.
kind
So
of
he
deal.
really went way out to show her that he feeling her.
Mm-hmm.
And when she came up, she liked what she saw. He gave her roses
Mm-hmm.
and they were chit-chatting it up
Mm-hmm.
about a possible future with each other.
Right.
And they look like a good match.
I agree. I agree. Now,
So
whether they actually end up being that, on I guess future episodes in time will tell.
James is a problem,
And it's gonna be a problem.
and he's gonna
It
be
ain't
a
going nowhere.
problem. Thank you very much.
And she can kind of try to convince him otherwise, and maybe kind of brush off that issue, but it ain't going
No,
nowhere.
it's not.
So,
No, it's not.
the guys that reconvene in the men's lounge.
I was disgusted at
I mean,
Tommy allowing Tony to talk about the entanglement with Natasha. Not Natasha is not there to defend herself. So why are they having a conversation about Natasha, who is an attorney no less, without her being there? Tommy sometimes just allow the men to ride roughshod over these women with what they're saying, and he does not check them. He had no business allowing that conversation to happen. And then, as an afterthought, he said, "Oh, we can't talk about Natasha because she's not here." He should have cut that to the quick the moment Tony started with his foolishness
That
about the entanglement.
well, that I agree with that part of it, but he contradicted himself. He got the information and
And then
then
he
said,
said, "Oh,
"We're not going to talk
we're
about
not going to talk about." How
it."
does that work?
It doesn't from a fair and from my end rational point of view.
All the men were laughing, and I thought it just put Natasha in a very negative light because suppose she's a private woman, and her sleeping with allegedly sleeping with Tony was something private and personal. Now it's out there.
Well,
Why? How is that fair?
it's not from from that vantage point, and that's one reason why I think Tommy maybe could have exercised a little bit of better judgment and had that maybe that conversation off camera, and it didn't make Tommy look, you know, neutral and
No, it
or
didn't.
unbiased. Yeah, lastly, Dre had an opportunity to meet with Cynthia again to, I guess, reveal his decision about, you know, who he plans to pursue heading into the final stages of this process.
Right.
He talked about, if I can recall correctly, you know, just the emotional connection that they have and how he's attracted to her, so forth and so on, and all. And this was obviously after he got the feedback from his was it his
Sister.
sister? Yeah,
Mm.
and her niece,
Right.
and his niece rather. He, I believe, had initially intended to come there
To cut her loose.
to cut her loose and say that he plans on pursuing Jeffrey, but from my end, he punked out.
Yeah, she flirted with him a little bit and he changed his mind.
No, he changed. He went back to this place of being undecided and not making a definitive decision. So, you know, he to me he never really left there, irrespective of his intention.
Right,
He never really left
right.
that place of indecision
But mm, because I'm becoming a little cynical,
of
did the producers set this up as a cliffhanger situation, or
yeah.
was that an authentic thing?
It could have
You
been
never
because
know.
they didn't reveal at the end of the show who was going home
Exactly.
when it was obviously the men's week to, you know, to decide who was going to be eliminated.
You
Which of the
never
ladies?
know.
Yeah, it could have been something to kind of keep us wondering, to keep us guessing, and keep us, you know, kind of intrigued and mystified by, you know, what will happen until one more week goes by.
Well, I'm sure for the reunion,
There's gonna be
stuff will
something
be on in public.
something's gonna be said. There's gonna be some chatter going on, chirping going on, all this and that.
We want to thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you for sending your comments in.
In one of the previous episodes, Morgan got a chance to meet one of Mark Anthony's boys or family members, who, after the meeting, described her as a red flag the size of a football field.
Hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, that football field size red flag morphed into a stadium parking lot.
A stadium parking lot.
Stadium parking lot, the whole damn facility red flag. What do y'all think?
Tell me, if I behave like Morgan, will we still be together?
I'd have been out the picture. Exit stage left even with the quickness.
It's impossible to sleep with one eye open, is it?
Hey,
I mean, it's just nerve-wracking.
yeah,
It's like, what happens when you're in the shower? What is she doing?
maybe too late.
The word says it's better to live on a rooftop than to live in a house with a warring woman. And I will leave you with that.